LeBron James. Now they're in the middle of the playoffs right now, and during this whole, there's a lot of protests going on because of everything that's happening in these latest police shootings. They started a boycott, and it lasted for all of 24 whole hours. Now, people have different opinions on this. I personally feel like an opportunity was lost here. And it's not that I'm saying that they needed to do this boycott or they have to do this boycott, but my thing is, don't put your foot out there if you're not going to be 10 toes down. Otherwise, it makes it look a certain kind of way. Because when they launched this boycott, all the other sports were in line, so many other people were in line, and it just makes things look a certain type of way when all of a sudden daddy can come around and be like, hey, we wrote y'all Negroes a check. Y'all better shut up and dribble. Like it looks that, I'm not saying that's what happened, but that's how it looks. And I don't know what the conversation was between President Obama and LeBron James, but it made me kind of look at President Obama a certain type of way also. Like how down for the cause are you really, or are you more politician? Like, because we hold him up in a certain regard, obviously, because first of all, I think he's a good person. I don't know him personally, obviously, but I think he's a good, decent man. I think he was a solid president. But at the end of the day, he's a politician. And there's a lot of people in the Black community that are raising questions as to, like, how down for Black people is he really? So that whole situation had me looking at them a certain kind of way. But what did y'all think?
I looked at this from a bunch of different angles, and I gotta disagree. I felt like, so first we should get it straight. This was a work stoppage. This wasn't a boycott. This was a strike.
Right.
These guys went on strike, and they did what you're supposed to do when you go on strike. They stopped working, and they threatened to not return to work. You have to have the threat of not returning to work and giving your services in order to get concessions from management. So they did that. Now, you can argue about whether the concessions they got from management were enough given the circumstances of what they were looking for, right? So they got this big voting initiative where the stadiums are going to be opened up for people to vote. It remains to be seen whether that's going to be very helpful with getting Trump removed from office, which I got to assume most of the NBA union is in favor of. But they did set up this task force and this committee to do more political action and more outreach for social justice from the NBA. If they don't end up getting the owners to put political pressure on politicians who they are tight with to make changes and to do more for social justice, then this will probably have been a failure. I do think they should have came back to playing, though, and the reason is if they don't come back to play, they lose that platform completely. They don't have their voice. They don't have their image on TV every night. They're not talking. They're also the only league that gives a shit about social justice. So it'd be a real shame to lose this season, but also probably the next season, because if they defaulted on this season, there's probably going to be a lockout next season. So you got no NBA maybe for 2 seasons. And the other sports are pathetic when it comes to social justice. The NBA commissioner and the NBA's management at least care about this stuff and have, like, gotten behind players with, I don't know if you guys watch games or not, but all the commercials for the games are about social justice. All the interviews afterwards are talking about it. The post-game press conference is talking about it. Whereas baseball, football, hockey, they're not saying nothing about this. Football has actively been on the other side. They've been on the Trump side of this for years, right? So I think that it was the right thing to do to come back. It remains to be seen whether they get all concessions they want, especially if they don't get these conservative-ass owners to talk to these politicians about making change. But I think they were in a tough position, and they did what was best to keep the focus on social justice in the biggest way possible.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to put all the burden on LeBron James and Barack Obama as well. Yeah. I think that's like a tool that's been used by the media. It's like, oh, was the boycott enough? And if it's a failure, it's LeBron James' failure, or it's Barack Obama's failure. First of all, Barack Obama owes America nothing anymore. Nothing at all. He did his time, okay? He did his bid. He did his time. He went in the White House for 8 years. He came out. He's in retirement. So anything he's doing for us at this point is bonus. All right, let's get that out the way. He's done his time. He's done the most. The fact that LeBron James has become the face of this boycott is simply because of his popularity and because of how big his voice is. But at the end of the day, this is a players' union issue. All the players in the NBA have to be behind this. And this makes it difficult for you guys to move in unison when you have so many voices that need to and should be heard. So this idea that that everybody wants to boycott as many games as they could until their demands were met, that was going to be impossible as well. Like, what are the chances every single player or even a majority of the players are going to say, hey, let's all boycott? It's like, no, people have kids to feed. People have a livelihood to make. And of course, this season has already been delayed so much already. So I understand from a business perspective, boycotting the one game and then getting back to work. But at the end of the day, if it is a failure, it's not Barack's failure, first of all. It's not LeBron's failure. And I do think that the NBA, comparatively speaking, is doing more than enough to move the needle and to fight for justice. They have justice on their jerseys, for Christ's sake. They have Black Lives Matter on the basketball court, for Christ's sake. So the idea that they're not doing enough isn't fair to how much they've actually done for this movement.
When it comes to the Black Lives Matter on the jerseys and on the basketball court, like that kind of stuff doesn't really, like, they could have it, they could not have it. Like, it doesn't really move me one way or the other. I'm all more for action. And I agree. It shouldn't necessarily all fall on the shoulders of a LeBron James or a Barack Obama. My whole thing is, sometimes it seems like, and again, I'm not with these people, but it seems like certain people almost want to kind of take that responsibility on until it gets too real. And then it's like, oh, well, that's the way it comes across sometimes. So it's almost like, if like President Obama, you're right, he did do his job for 8 years. But if you're not going to be either be down or get out of the way, like enjoy retirement. If that's what you're doing, enjoy retirement, but don't get in the way. That's all I'm saying. And again, maybe he didn't. I wasn't there in that conversation. But from the optics, it looked a certain kind of way. It just looked a certain kind of way. And I don't like the way it came across.
I mean, Obama allegedly, Obama recommended they get as many concessions as they could get and then go back to play to keep the platform, right? What people need to understand about Barack Obama is that Barack Obama has never been a revolutionary. He's always been an incrementalist. The entire time he was in office, he was an incrementalist. And the reason for that, especially in regards to race, is that Barack Obama has always had faith in white people. He's always had more faith in white people than the average black man has faith in white people. Why is that? Because Barack Obama was raised by lovely white people in Kansas, people in Hawaii, people who were good to him, people who showed him grace, people who brought him into the community. So when he was in office and he was always trying to negotiate with Republicans and trying to make change and reach across the aisle, people were like, why is he doing this? Because he had faith in white people. Faith that was not rewarded very often, by the way. Faith that was challenged and ended up hurting him, I think, at times.
Right.
So it's no surprise that his advice was an incremental advice. It wasn't a revolutionary advice, right? But again, it was a real rock and a hard place. Like, let's say they were advised to not come back, right? We're walking away from this season, right? What happens when they come back the next season and there's another shooting? They've set a precedent where we walk out of this thing. Are they even coming back for next season? Because the owners know that at any given time, they can just pull the plug because something has happened in the country and they want to protest it. So these are all things that they had to consider in a very short period of time.
But I think that you're absolutely right. the thing is, like, you know, money talks. Money makes the world go round. Money runs this country. And when you threaten something like, we're going to have a strike, and we're not going to, these playoffs, y'all not getting these playoffs, or whatever the case, and we'll take whatever punishment comes with it. Well, that messes up advertisement. That messes up big business. That messes up corporations. And when big business gets interrupted, something's got to change. That, like, when the system gets interrupted, things start to shift. Things start to move. So again, optically, it felt like, all right, we about to do this, we about to do whatever, and big business came in and was like, no, y'all ain't. Y'all better make sure this damn money flowing. And it was like,
those agents and managers came in and said, hey, bro, I know how y'all feel.
I know how you feel.
I'm white. I don't because I'm white, but I can imagine how y'all feel. But y'all Negroes need to get back to work because they're not gonna be no season next season if y'all keep this shit up. I think that's what happened.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, either look, sometimes you can get out there in front of that bullet and be like, you know what, I didn't really mean to be here, but don't do it then. Don't, you know, just I don't know.
You know what? You know why this happened? This happened because of the bubble. These happened because these guys are in this bubble with nothing to do but be in their phones. And what's happening on their phones? They're seeing all these shootings. They're seeing all the comments about what they should be doing. They're getting pressure and seeing it like never before because, man, if you ain't got nothing to do and you're a millennial with a lot of money in a place where you're just going to be on your phone, on Twitter, on Instagram, hearing everybody's opinion and getting pressure to do these things. And I think that's what was a real catalyst for it.
I think the NBA players are facing a common issue that Black Lives Matter has faced. And that is when you're protesting without being transparent about what your demands are, then you're left in an endless cycle of protesting. So what happens is a lot of times people in the media, it's clear why we're protesting, right? But what's going to bring the protesting to an end, right? What can be done to resolve the strife? And I think that's something that isn't effectively communicated when we're dealing with these issues, right? When people are protesting and burning down cities, a lot of white people, their only concern is what can we do to make this stop? And oftentimes they can't get that answer. Oftentimes it's not as simple as all you got to do is try this person. So what ends up happening is that people are protesting longer than we know how to protest. Like we're protesting for days upon days and weeks upon weeks because we're not seeing the change that we need to see. And people who are indifferent or on the other side of that protest are just annoyed, like they're still protesting? What's going on? Why are they still protesting? What can we do to stop the protesting? So the NBA should learn from this. And I think movements moving forward should learn from this. If you're gonna protest, be deliberate, be intentional. Have a mission and make sure that people know what your demands are so that at the end of the day, if the demands are met, then we good. You can have your CVS back. But until that day, we're going to be out here in these streets. So I think that needs to happen.
I mean, that's the tough part about that is though, like, again, like, you know, they protested because of Jacob Blake. And then like 3 days later, we hear about this other brother in Rochester. Right. So like there's never, it seems like there's just an endless string of hashtags and brothers being shot unjustly by the police. So we'll have something to protest, unfortunately. And it's just one of those deals where, again, like I feel like they did the best they could in the circumstance because, you know, again, what happens the next time? And, you know, as we all know, unfortunately, there's just always seems to be a next time.